We're here today at Tilbury Town, celebrating 75 years since HMT Empire Windrush arrived right here into the Tilbury docks. Now, on that first journey where 492 West Indian migrants came from the Caribbean, they arrived right here and many of them took trains straight into London Fenchurch Street. We're a very community-focused railway and we love to make connections with our communities, and this is one fine example which has had not just a local significance but also a national significance. We're unveiling today a plaque that's been jointly commissioned and supported by Thurrock Council, by Thurrock BME Group and by Trenitalia C2C.
And when you think of Windrush, you think of Tilbury, and we want to celebrate that rich Caribbean heritage that Windrush brought here. It's a part of Tilbury's identity.
For them to leave their homeland, to come here and at our time of need, and embarks on what, well, I can only say was a very brave adventure. To think as well that most of those people, it wasn't their first time here. They'd been standing with, our soldiers, shoulder to shoulder, fighting in the war previously.
The Windrush generation went into the NHS, into hospitality industries, into transport. Britain would not be like it is today if it was not for the Windrush generation.
We came here, my ancestors came here to rebuild Britain. That is why it's so pretty today. We live Windrush every day. We see the people in the street. I have never met a more friendly bunch of people as now. I live that every day in Tilbury.
And it's great to see so many people here commemorating what was actually the start of modern British society.
Windrush was Tilbury. Tilbury is Windrush. They've got generations that are still in Tilbury, in Basildon, on the C2C line. So for anyone that travels with C2C, actually that's something to be really proud of.
For Tilbury residents, we are in a very significant area because oftentimes they think that, oh, not much is happening in Tilbury. So to have that monument here at C2C with your permission is absolutely fantastic. The United Kingdom has the diversity and the richness that it has because of this generation. So we're so proud that it's in Tilbury.
People think Windrush happened just in London or elsewhere, but it's significant to know that it's in the dock, it's in Tilbury. Everyone that comes to this station, comes out here, will now see that Thurrock, even its motto, which is from Thames to the people of the world, so that we are welcoming everyone into Thurrock.
It's important for our customers, it's important for our staff, people that have that Caribbean heritage to see that they're being celebrated. That what happened on that day, it changed the way that Britain worked. They were here to rebuild Britain and they played a part in that.
Gateway 97.8 with Johnny. Hope you're well on a Friday afternoon. A really big week for Essex, but I suppose really the landscape of the country as we mark 75 years since HMT Empire Windrush came to Essex. Lady Sidra Naeem, who's a Deputy Lieutenant of Essex, is with me now. And Sidra, really nice to see you. You played a big role yesterday.
Yes, I did. Yes, it was very, very exciting. It was the 75th anniversary of the Windrush generation when the ship first landed. And I was right there in the exact area where everything took place in 1948 in Tilbury Docks, where I unveiled a plaque, which was right outside the station, Tilbury Station.
There was loads of celebrations there, wasn't there? And a real sense of community coming together.
Yes, it was full of lots and lots of people who were first, second, third generation Windrush. Celebrating their ancestors and things. There was a big exhibition in the walkway, which was the original walkway through which the Windrush generation came out of the ship and then walked across there. And there was a big installation there, which I actually opened in 2020 as a Deputy Lieutenant. I actually opened that exhibition. There were lots of dignitaries. There were mayors from the BAME community, from Thurrock as well as Basildon. There were MPs there. It was a real celebration. It really was. Really enjoyed yesterday.
And if we go back to the period 75 years ago, and of course we've all learnt about it over the course of our lives and have learnt about it more, I suppose, this week. Just tell us what happened that day. So that's sort of a symbolic of a sort of a wider movement.
Yes, so what exactly happened was that Britain was war-torn after the World War, after World War II, and there was, you know, so much work that needed to be done to bring the country back up again, you know, buildings in rubble and all sorts was happening. So people from the Commonwealth were invited here by the British government to help rebuild Britain again. And the first generation actually of immigrants which came were actually from the Caribbean. And the massive ship, it's actually the ship that was called Windrush, landed in 1948. And all those people then came in, some joined the NHS, some joined the transport, industries, some joined the hospitality industries. And together, you know, with low pay, because they were coming from outside of Britain, they actually took lower wages than the British and were a little bit more harder working, coming from more poverty lands, then slowly, you know, built up Britain to where it is today. And people from the Caribbean, they, you know, contributed towards athletes as well. And this is why the plaque was actually outside Thurrock Station, because a lot of them, you know, joined the transport industry on the trains and on the buses and things like that. So,
And why is it important now that we still mark and celebrate this moment?
it's important to celebrate it so that the future generations do not forget their roots and forget their ancestors and why, you know, all of these people ended up in Britain, which was not their home country to begin with, but now it is. So it's actually a celebration of their ancestry, their history, and also so that the new generations don't forget. The new generations who are, you know, coming up now do not know all of this history. And the history is dying out. The original Windrush generation are all completely dying out now. If they are alive, they're, you know, in their late 90s, early hundreds. So it's like, you know, the First World War. Why do we remember that every year? It's so that the future generations can know the history and keep that history revived, really, year after year.
You're one of the King's representatives in Essex. It's we're just still getting used to saying King rather than Queen, of course.
Yes.
And the celebration and discussion about the Commonwealth is something that actually he talks about a lot, isn't it?
Yes, I think the King is really actually involved with this because he is the head of the Commonwealth, and it's from the Commonwealth countries, the countries which England owned, are the ones that were used for the soldiers to come over and fight in the battles, in the world wars, and then also afterwards, subsequently, to build up Britain again, which was, you know, in a bit of a wreck, obviously, after all the bombing and everything that happened in the Second World War. So the Windrush generation were first. They were the first lot of immigrants. Then the Asian community then joined later, approximately 15 years later. In the early 60s is when then the Asians then came, and they were actually brought in again by the government. Yes.
And then I suppose we just, because people stay and have children and marry, and that's when we become it's quite a pivotal moment in us becoming so multicultural.
Yes, and the younger generation, obviously England is their country and we all class ourselves as British now. English is our first language, and our children, for example, they actually relate to themselves as being English. However, it is important really for everybody to learn about their roots, and that includes even, you know, somebody who is white British English, because immigration has happened throughout the centuries. Right, you know, in the beginning of time, England has always been an island. So everybody, you know, may have, for example, Roman heritage or Celtic or Scottish heritage or Welsh or Vikings. The Vikings, the Romans, the Normans, the Huguenots, they all came here from other lands. Jews as well, the Jewish community.
I suppose when you look at I mean, you've spoken about athletes and celebrities, if you like, but people in public office. You look at that. Actually, you've got a prime minister, a home secretary, a foreign secretary, mayor of London, here in Basildon, deputy mayor. It's so normal, isn't it, for people of all different backgrounds to hold public office?
Yes, at the moment now, I'm seeing a huge change actually, because as the younger generations are growing up, they feel more confident and they very strongly relate to themselves as being English, British. So they are beginning to contribute a lot more, I would say, to the community and working hard to get to those top positions. And I'm actually seeing it, I would say, in the last 10 years, it's become a lot more prominent. And that's a good thing, because having some of these kinds of people at the top just represents the country, because the whole of England is actually multicultural, you know, and having people of different ethnicity in these roles just actually, you know, spells out what the country is at the moment.
Lastly, then, I know you've always got things going on and opportunities around the corner. What are you up to at the moment? What's next for you?
I think the Windrush actually was a very big thing. There was so much going on this week.
Yeah.
Before that, it was the coronation. And summer on the whole, because of the huge rise in outdoor events, anyway, because of the summer, that's when our duties increase. Lots of tea parties to come and things like that. But as in an actual event, there isn't any now until Christmas.
Okay, well, you enjoy the tea parties. Lovely to chat to you as ever, Sidra. Cheers.
Thank you very much.